Alright guys, welcome to the World War Wisdom YouTube channel. You guys probably know me from my shorter TikTok videos, and this is actually the first full-length YouTube video that I've made, so I thought I'd try something a bit different. Today I'm going to be watching a video of a World War II reenactment, and as a World War II reenactor myself, I'll be able to kind of explain what's going on, give some of my reactions to what they're doing, and just kind of watch the video with you guys. So today the video we'll be watching is of the Victory Show in 2018. It's a first-person recording, and it's from the 82nd Airborne 505th RCT channel. Alright guys, so with that being said, let's jump into the video and check it out. Alright guys, so right off the bat there, we're kind of thrown into it. You see that mortar there at the beginning, and I hope they come back to that and show that more later. But mortars and reenactments are actually really cool. Usually they put explosive charges down the barrel, and sometimes they just detonate that charge to make it look like it's shooting something, even though there's nothing in it. But other times they'll put down a foam projectile, so kind of like a big Nerf bullet that looks like a mortar shell. Other times they'll load like a Huggy bottle or a Gatorade bottle that's full of flour or some kind of other powder so that it shoots out, and when it hits the ground the powder flies up and looks like an explosion. So yeah, mortars are really cool, and you see them a lot in reenactments, especially because they're a little bit cheaper than some other crew served weapons, like maybe a real 50 caliber machine gun or even a real 30 caliber machine gun. So a lot of groups will get a mortar and kind of teach everyone how to use that. All right, let's keep watching.
Right, where's this one? Come up, nice and close.
Yeah, so that's really cool. You can see they have tanks in this battle. Some reenactments will or won't have armor involved, and adding that armor adds a level of complexity to it. It makes it a lot cooler, but also it's very hard to see out of a tank. So sometimes when you have armor in reenactments, they have to have people directing the tanks, they have to have set paths for the tanks, so that can make things a lot more complicated. Here, it doesn't look like they're doing as much as some of the reenactments I've been in. They're letting the infantry get right up to the tank. I know sometimes there's rules about that they want you to stay away from it so you don't get run over by accident. Doesn't seem to be an issue here. But you can see that the infantry there, they're kind of staying right behind that tank and advancing with it. That's pretty typical. You see that a lot in World War II, but it goes both ways. There were also times when infantry were instructed to stay as far away from tanks as possible because they knew that the enemy would target them. So in an open field like this, yeah, it's pretty likely that soldiers would be doing exactly this. They'd be stacked up behind that tank because it's probably the only cover they had available. All right, let's keep watching. Alright, so we see a variety of weapons here. You can see a few guys with M1 Garands. You see a guy on the left there with a grease gun, the M3 grease gun. And then you see some other guys on the side there with carbines. So pretty typical weapons for what you would see for paratroopers. It looks like the guy on the right there has a normal stock on his carbine. A lot of paratroopers were also given the version that had a folding stock to make it even smaller so they could jump out of the plane with it really easily and just kind of pull it out and use it when they hit the ground. Alright, awesome. We get our first look at the Thompson there, another World War II weapon that I didn't mention earlier. So that Thompson, I'm curious, you could see that it was fully automatic. I don't know if that's a Thompson that was already fully automatic and was a real gun that they converted to also fire blanks, or if it was a Thompson that's specifically created to only fire blanks. I would guess it might be, it's called a blank firing only gun, just because those are a lot cheaper than using a real Thompson, but people do use them, and Yeah, nowadays a real Thompson can cost almost $40,000, and you'd be surprised that people do bring real Thompsons to events and use them in the battles.
Sit tight.
All right, there you can see that German tank. It looks like a Stug that's knocked out in the battle. Usually when a tank or something big like that gets knocked out, they kind of plan that out in advance just so they know how everything's gonna work and how to evacuate the crew from the vehicle and everything else. Usually that's accomplished by putting a smoke grenade inside the tank or maybe planting some explosives on the outside of it to detonate. That can be detonated sometimes by the tank crew or by somebody else who's controlling the pyrotechnics. So you could see here that the infantry kind of jumped up on the tank as it was knocked out and fired some rounds into the turret. That was probably planned out to some extent, I would guess, that some people were going to be doing that just so the crew knew what to expect and everything.
Move on, move on, move on. Get right on. Come on, let's go.
All right, so now they're really closing in on the Germans. It's probably getting towards the end of the battle now. You can tell because a lot of people are taking hits. Taking hits is just pretending to get shot. Usually in a reenactment, people wait all the way until the end to do that because if you do it at the beginning, a lot of times you end up laying there for a very long time. And people don't want to spend thousands of dollars on gear and travel to get to this event just to die in the first 5 seconds and then lie around the rest of the battle. So people usually wait until the end. There's ways around that. Sometimes people will take a hit and their friends will drag them out of sight and then kind of bring them back in a few minutes. But here we can see that nearing the end, a lot of people are kind of realizing it might be their time to play dead. Alright, yeah, so we saw that guy take a hit just there. People always ask how you know when you get shot, and it's kind of like that guy just did. If you're out in the open and a lot of people are shooting, you probably take a hit and fall down, pretend you got shot. Other than that, it's usually not really planned out that much. You just kind of decide for yourself if you want to take a hit. That varies battle to battle. Smaller battles, sometimes they'll kind of either decide in advance or it's really strict on if you see someone point a gun at you and the muzzle flash and everything, then you take a hit. But in a big battle like this, you're really just guessing and doing it when it feels right. All right, so we can see now the Americans are right up on top of the Germans, and this can be a tricky situation in reenactments, especially ones where there's a crowd like this, because when you get up close, things can get kind of weird. You don't want to shoot a blank at someone if you're right next to them. I'd say within maybe 10 feet. You don't want to point your gun at somebody and fire a blank round. It can be a little bit dangerous, probably still safe, but once you get in that close range, you're risking things. Also, when you run up on a reenactor that you don't know, they're a total stranger, and then you have to do hand-to-hand combat, it's kind of awkward, and a lot of times it doesn't look that great. There's a reason why they choreograph that stuff so thoroughly in action movies, because it's hard to make it look good. So when you have two people play fighting and punching each other on the ground, it can look a little dumb. So you can see here most people are surrendering. That's the typical response. You'll see other people try to make a last stand with a handgun or something, but the vast majority of people are gonna surrender. You can see that at the end there, the Americans are pushed all the way up. They've captured the Germans, and that part of the battle was like some of the other stuff I talked about, totally planned out in advance. Some battles that are smaller, they'll call them tacticals, and they just kind of let it play out, see who wins. One where there's a crowd this big and so many people involved, the battle has to be following a plan. So here you can see it was obviously planned out that the Americans would win. They overrun the Germans and take them prisoners, and I would guess that the battle kind of wrapped up shortly after that last clip we saw. Alright, so that's all I really have to say about that video. I thought that footage was really impressive and really well done. I'd be curious to see kind of how they attach the camera to that person and what it looked like. A lot of times if someone carries a camera in the battle, they'll disguise it as a World War II era camera, but here we can see that they obviously didn't do that because it was strapped to their person. But I'm curious, maybe did they conceal it in their gear or just wear it openly? I know a lot of people will try to conceal a camera in their gear, but that can be pretty tricky to do well. Alright guys, so let me know what you thought of the video in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing a lot more videos like this in the near future, so I'll see you then.